toys in there too, in the other room. You can always hold them in here.
He turned 3 yesterday, and he's 15 months.
3 and 15 months. Happy birthday, buddy. Did you have a party?
All right.
Cool.
And you're sweet. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for coming today. Would you like can I grab your baptize?
Sure.
That's okay. Everybody copies.
You told me
I did. Hello.
Oh my goodness. Hi. How are you? Great. How are you? Hi. So good to see your face.
Good to see
Mama.
you. I'm good.
Awesome.
Wherever you want.
So I saved it in the salad.
You look very dapper today.
Oh, I had a big meeting today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I love your boots.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I can't adjust in these. So I've tried. Do you want a copy, Chris?
Sure. Yeah. For some reason I'm doing the same thing as me. I'm feeling very large and in charge right now. Really awesome. Well, I'm due after you. I think by like a couple of days. Yeah. Labor Day? Yeah. Late August. Oh, I thought you were like early August. Oh, we are really close. Wow, thank you. You know, I'm feeling really good, but yesterday and today I'm like just so out of breath all the time. I feel like I'm huffing and puffing everywhere I go. Right?
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad you could make it.
Yes, yes.
We're trying an experiment today, this is our first Pathways event that we've ever streamed.
Okay.
So people who are on their lunch breaks, maybe they can join us and they can write in questions or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they won't.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us out there?
Anybody out there?
But we can also, the portion of this that we're going to record and the portion that we won't record. So people can get the understanding of what we're talking about today, which is one of my favorite. Marcy Axness was one of the first people that I read in Pathways in 2008. And she generally will talk about conscious parenting. She has a book called Raising Generation. I mispronounce this all the time. Do you pronounce P-A-X as Pax? Or something like that. That's the title of the book. And she's always had really sound advice about conscious just engagement in life. And when I saw that she wrote this article about fertility and pregnancy, I immediately thought about you, Chris, and all the mindfulness that you teach in your childbirth education classes as a doula.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to share some time having a conversation with everybody about that today. That's bringing you in to do some experiential things.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did. I'm really happy to be here. I love talking about mindfulness. I am a childbirth educator at heart, which is a little bit different than what we're going to be talking about today, right? So there's some overlap for sure. But if it's okay, can we go around and kind of just like introduce yourself and say maybe what got you interested in the topic for today?
I'm Allison, and I guess because I've had 2 completely different pregnancy experiences with both my kids. I had a doula with my first pregnancy, and I didn't have anyone with my second, so I think that made a big difference. So it was just kind of, I figure, the more I know, better prepared I'll be.
So you intend on having, you're not pregnant now?
Oh yeah, I'm due in August.
Oh, you are. Look at you. Oh my goodness. You look amazing. Okay.
I have
so
little ones, like 5 pounds, 6 pounds.
Oh, okay,
I
right.
don't have big children.
I sleep a lot, so I apparently make really big babies. All right. Well, congratulations. Awesome. And what's your name?
Allison.
Allison. Okay, cool. So you had a doula for your first, not for your second. Do you plan on it for this one?
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
I
Cool.
think what prompted it in my first pregnancy is my mom and I haven't talked in like 6 years.
Okay.
And I was like, pregnant, and I was like, I have no idea, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And like she was kind of like explained everything to me as the doctors were there, and
Yeah.
they were like, you need to do this, and she's like, no, she's like, this is what they are asking you to do, and you can say yes or no. And so it was really nice to have her there because I had no idea what I was doing.
She was your doula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like really nice.
Yeah, right? And you had just had somebody else, another set of eyes and ears and hands.
Yes, because all I was like, get this kid out.
So, as far as the topic for today, with mindfulness and pregnancy then, what's kind of got your ears perked up there?
I guess just kind of, it's just kind of something different.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Okay.
really, like this whole chiropractic
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
all new
Cool.
to me, so.
Good. Well, we'll dig down into that. One of the things I do as a childbirth educator, and like how does mindfulness fit into this, is some people call them pain coping practices, and I like to call them mindfulness practices, because when it comes down to, where does this idea of pain originate, there's a pretty good argument that it originates in our mind. Or that what we assign to it, the meaning that we assign to this concept of pain, originates in our mind. So that's what's got me pretty passionate about this. Cool, great, welcome. And then Nicole, I know you, but tell me what's got you interested in being here today.
I don't know. Just to get out of the house.
Okay. That's a good excuse. Yeah.
Love this.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And you're due any day.
Yeah.
All right, and so I'm interested to know just how this idea of pain coping or mindfulness might come into play with you. Like, how did that affect your first labor experience? Or
My first experience, I was in denial that I was in labor.
oh,
Because I expected it to hurt
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And no, I was just chilled in my bathtub basically.
Mhm.
My husband comes in, he's like, these contractions are really close. I think we need to get out of here. And I'm like, no, it can't be that far. It's supposed to hurt a lot more.
Mhm.
I got to the hospital at 10 centimeters.
Did you really? Really, right?
Stacy.
So that's awesome. That's so interesting. We're gonna have Dr. Adam. Hi. Hi. We're just kind of introducing ourselves right now. So Amy. Hey.
Hi. Well, John told me that you were getting together to discuss this, and I think it's very interesting to me because I'm pregnant with my second. I'm due on Labor Day, and my first birth was not at all what I expected or what I was told as a first-time mom to expect. Even with a lot of, Chris was my doula. She missed it. Everybody missed it. And so I took her class, which I really loved, the birth class. And I feel that my first birth, I sourced that. And I agree about the mindful connection. And I created the birth that I had. Now, looking back, I thought I was doing something good when I was putting all of that out there and really thinking about things, but I might have gone a little bit too far because my birth was 4 hours and, not 4 hours, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And from first contraction until he was out. And so it was fair. I feel like it was something very much that I put out there But I was also very mindful during the whole experience and was making active choices to participate in a certain way, be aware of what was happening to my body and with the baby itself. And so this is just a very interesting topic for me.
I'm so glad you're here.
Because I am still doing the same thing and sourcing and putting things out, and but I want to kind of tweak that a little bit this time because I'm not looking to recreate.
Right. Well, there's this idea, right, like The Secret, right, or the law of attraction. And like I live it and I believe in it, and I've got my vision boards at my house, and it's pretty amazing, you know, like the energy that you put out there and what comes back. But let me temper that by saying, like, in birth, it doesn't seem to really work that way. I say it all the time. It doesn't seem to work that way, and so sometimes there can be this self-blame if we put something out there, and it does happen or it doesn't happen, and we think that I'm the one that made this, you know, I'm the one that made this happen. I'm the reason that, you know, my birth was very long, or my birth was very short, or my birth was traumatic, or I didn't speak up, or I said too much, and all these things that we can tell ourselves after the birth, looking back on it. You know, I didn't hire the right provider, or you know, I wish I had a doula, I wish I didn't have a doula. I mean, all these things, whatever the choice is, we have a lot of self-blame. And it originates up here too, right? And the way we think about this and process this. Gosh, I could talk about this for how long do you have? I could talk about this for the sake of today and thinking about this mind-body connection and fertility and pregnancy. And so everybody here is pregnant, so there's going to be a fertility aspect too.
We're the fertility aspect.
You're the fertility aspect. Sorry, awesome. I didn't mean to leave you out. I'm sorry. You're just the facilitators. And let me, real quick, so you're Stacy?
Yes.
I'm Chris. Hi, what's got you in here today?
I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it seems interesting and wanted to learn more about it.
Great. Is this your first?
No, this is actually my third.
Your third? Okay, cool. So with your first two, did you use any like pain coping practices or? Okay, all right.
I have my first one at home and my second one at the cooking center.
Yeah. So what did you do? What were some things you did that was really helpful when you were actually in labor? And it came down to, you know, here comes some contractions, and our minds can run away with anything, or we can be really calm, right? So what was your experience when you had those first contractions in your mind?
With my first one, I don't know that I remember. I feel like it was really traumatic. Like I was just scared and nervous and wanted to be done with the whole process, so I didn't really enjoy it a whole lot. With my second one, I feel like I was more like ready for it, so I don't know. What was the question again?
Just like, what did you do then to cope with that when you were having contractions? What did you do to cope with the intensity of your labor? How did you deal with that intensity with your mind?
I think I just remember telling myself that like soon I was gonna hold her. So like the end result is worth what I was experiencing and the pain I was experiencing right then.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we're definitely going to get down into a mindfulness practice here in just a moment, but let me touch on you guys then. So what's got your ears perked up or interested in this topic specifically?
Can you start?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we're at a point now where we want to start a family, and we've been practicing mindfulness, and I think that we begin conscious parenting at this point in time. That we begin, our journey together with the condition of our bodies and our home, our financial stability, and all of that, with the intention of being able to nurture a child. And to be able to have that time and space for me was an important reason why I waited until I was able to establish this child, because I didn't feel like I had set myself up to a place where I could be a good dad, I could be there. All I was trying to do was trying to run a business and start a business and all that. And so we finally gotten to a point in our practice where I feel like I can kind of step off the gas pedal a bit. And it happened one night, Erica and I were sitting there talking about this, and she said that I would be a really good mom. I haven't gotten a chance to do that yet. And it was one of the reasons that I married her, was because I knew that about her. And when she said that, it changed my entire world. I said, you're 100% right about that. You're in a really strong spot. And so, yeah, it was about a month ago, and working on having fun with it and relaxed about it. But yeah, certainly changing our orientation from, well, we can't have a kid yet, to we're okay when this happens.
Yeah, right.
That's a big step. I'm interested just in that we've been doing a lot of, well, I have the preconception, just like health and mindfulness, like what I'm putting in my body, going chemical free, all that sort of stuff. But I want to get into the emotional aspect of it.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing, you guys. That's great. For those of you that don't know me, so I'm Chris Ghali, and I'm a birth and labor doula and a childbirth educator and a birth mentor, and I've been on my path with birthing from within for a number of years now. We really focus on this emotional, mental connection in the birth process. You know, we read a lot of books that talk about how labor unfolds, right? Or drugs that can help with fertility, and it's very presented oftentimes in our culture as very black and white. And there's all this gray area that we don't talk about, or we might get the chance to talk about if we happen to have had a best friend that has had trouble getting pregnant, or happen to have a best friend that, you know, had a really great birth experience or a really bad birth experience, and they share these things. But otherwise, it's kind of this hush-hush topic, right? Especially if you start talking about mindfulness, people are like, what does that even mean? You know, my doctor doesn't talk to me about mindfulness. How could this possibly fit into my birth? So that's what we're going to talk about today, or at least just kind of open the door in the conversation. There's a mindfulness practice that I want to teach you guys, but maybe first, so do you want to, like, I don't know, maybe summarize what the article is, or has anybody had a chance to read the article? All right. I was able to read through the article and her ideas on how our mind, the thoughts that we have, and how that influences what happens in our bodies, like on a cellular level, which is pretty mind-blowing stuff, really, when you think about it. Any highlights or high points that you want to bring up before we kind of jump into some mindfulness practices and really get to practice what we're preaching?
The biggest thing that always stands out in this conversation is, I think, one of the simple things that Marcy does to combine the word body-mind. She says this because her body-mind's intelligence. And just that combination there, I think, is so key to our conversation. That traditionally we've separated the mind, you know, that's what they call Descartes' error. I think, therefore I am. That I have a brain, and it's something that's outside of, that lives up here, this mind, that's outside of my physical body. And now we know that we have these chemicals, these proteins, these peptides that get generated every single time you have a thought or an emotion, and they change how your body works. They change the flexibility of tissue. They change how other, everything from mucus to, all that visceral, body stuff, how does that work based off of the programs that we're running internally? And so everything from, fertility to pregnancy to conception, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. Plenty of people who unconsciously get pregnant, right? Didn't plan it, it was just like an oops, and didn't need to eat well or anything like that, and suddenly we're popping out babies. But I think they're I guess maybe the hope is, from a value standpoint, that there is a benefit to approaching this with intent. So yeah, there's it always stands out to me whenever I look at that is that we don't have a good word for that combination, that entity, that total unit that we are as beings. And so it's always interesting to see how people want to language.
Yeah, body, mind. Body, mind, body. Yeah.
Being me.
Well, let's go ahead and make some mind-body connection. What do you guys say?
Sounds good.
Good game? Are we up for it? All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is just there is some, just take one of these and pass it down, if you would. We'll pass it all the way down the circle. Yep. It's a cup full of ice. All right. Some of them have sort of melted into ice chunks. And if that's the case, then you get some.
Take a whole cup.
Take a whole. Here, I'm gonna get one more. Cup.
You take a whole cup. No, I remember, but I didn't know it was a whole cup. I don't remember that part. That's okay.
Well,
You get a half a cup. Okay. It'll be easier. And then just go ahead and take a paper towel and pass it down because ice is wet and melty. There you go. All right. So, when we're in labor, right? And fast forward to there. If you've already been in labor, you can kind of imagine the last time you were in labor. Even if you're planning, some people know that they're planning an unmedicated labor or labor without medical support. Some people go into it saying, nope, I know that I'm going to want some medical support and I'm okay with that. I want some pain relievers and, that's not exactly this discussion. So when we're thinking about either when you're in early labor and had those first contractions, or if you had contractions that you felt throughout your entire labor, we're going to kind of try to loosely replicate that in this class. Now, holding ice, for any of you who've been in labor, you know that labor's nothing like that, right? Like, we can imagine holding onto some ice and trying to, feel that in our hand. And it seems like fun and games until you have your first contraction, right? And then you're like, this is not like an ice contraction at all. So what we're going to do is know that there's not really a way to replicate what a contraction feels like, at least actively, in a situation like this, right? But the whole point of this, what we're about to do, is to see where our mind goes when we are faced with this negative stimulus. We don't want to be facing. I'm going to ask you to hold onto the ice for a minute, which is about the length of a contraction, right? And if you know any mindfulness techniques, just put them aside for now. This is the time to feel the ice, really feel it, and take a moment to just see what your mind makes of that sensation. I'm not going to leave you in that place. I'm going to teach you a little something after that. So you've done this before. Amy's actually, when she was in my class, did this experiment, had this experience. So kind of just let yourself go back there and say, oh yeah, yep, or, I'm going to allow myself to feel this just for the sake of this exercise. So I'm going to time you, let's see. Do you have a watch on?
I have a timer.
I have a little.
All right. I'll just take a peek at it.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to time a minute for you. And I've got a little chime actually, so I don't have to keep saying pick up your ice and put down your ice. I'm just going to kind of ring you in and ring you out. So when you hear the little chime, it just means pick up your ice. And then I'll ring it again when the minute's done, okay? So all we're going to do is hold on to your ice. I'm going to talk about it when we're done. Okay, so the cup, you can just kind of let the ice drip down into your cup, right? If you hold it over your cup. All right, are we all game? We know what we've got to do? All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and we'll let your minute start. How are you feeling?
It's definitely building. It started out not so bad and now it's getting.
It's making me want to move other body parts and distract myself.
Yeah,
From
none of that
that
yet.
sensation.
None of that yet. Yeah, I'm not moving from it. It's cold.
Try to guess where we are in a minute. Yeah.
Good one for me, and I'm not even holding the ice right now. All right. Great job. What'd you think? Do you guys kind of notice how your mind tries to look for a way out of this negative sensation? Yeah. Right? It's not terrible. You can tolerate that, right? It's a minute. You know it's a minute. You know it's ice. It's not going to hurt you. What did your mind start to tell you? What are some things that you noticed about that sensation?
It was cold, so I put it down.
Did you put it down?
No,
Yeah.
but I do put it down.
Yeah. Your mind's telling you to put it down. What else?
I kind of felt like maybe at one point I was squeezing it harder
Uh-huh.
instead of just holding it. Like, I don't know if I was trying to make it melt faster or go away or what, but I definitely feel like I feel like I was really clamped down on it at one point.
Right? Yeah. What about you guys? What did you notice?
It hurt.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how like ice?
Yeah.
Ice
I
hurts.
was trying to think, what actually is making this hurt right now? Is it like constricting my blood vessels or?
Yeah, you're getting curious about it. That's cool. What else? Anybody else? Nicole, Allison?
It felt like it was burning.
Yeah. So your mind was curious about it too. It didn't feel good. Anything?
I think that was here.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, you're one of the outliers there. That's cool. We'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, like it's human nature. Our mind is like, I do not want to feel this. But what's cool is that, I mean, here we are. Who am I, right? We're all just people sitting in this room, and everybody had the option to put their ice down if they really wanted to, but nobody did. And so that's kind of cool, right? You're willing to, your mind helped you to keep holding on to that ice, even when you didn't really have to for any reason at all. So that's one thing just to kind of notice how our mind does us a favor, how your mind might do you a favor when you're in labor then too, right? When people say like, I don't want to feel this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, and you know, you got some ways to cope in your mind. So it's human nature. We say, I want to run away from this, I don't want to feel this anymore, and our mind starts spinning these stories. And I don't know if any of you who did this, but it's really normal for your mind to start saying like, gosh, this is really cold. How long is this minute anyway? This feels like it's taking forever. And, you know, just like on and on and on, these stories that we can spin about this little sensation that we're feeling in our hand. So, in labor, in life, it doesn't have to only be in labor. I'm so used to teaching it about in labor. We've got this amazing thing that we can work with, and it's our breath. And how is our breath connected to our mind and our body? Right? It's just like conduit. We always have our breath. We breathe every moment of every day. We're not thinking about it. Sometimes we might be if we're taking a deep breath for some reason, but generally we just breathe. Our body just knows how to perfectly breathe. There's some theories out there and some thoughts about different techniques for breathing in labor. But I kind of believe that our bodies know how to breathe perfectly during labor. We don't really need to do anything differently about it. But sometimes it's just a matter of being aware of that breath, having that mind-body connection and being aware of it. So one thing I'm going to teach you is just called breath awareness. I mean, it's not like I'm really teaching you anything mind-blowing. I'm just bringing your mind, bringing your consciousness to this idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through this breath awareness. And when I ring the chime, that'll be, again, your cue to pick up your ice. This time, pick it up with your other hand, because your first hand probably a little numb. We want it to be even. Hot right now. We want it to be even, right? Yeah. So pick the ice up with your other hand when it's time. Get a big chunk of it. If that last one was easy, I don't know if it was, but some people will say like that was no big deal. And if it was, and you want a little bit more of a stimulus to work with your mind, you can kind of put it on your inner wrist, and that'll make it a little bit more intense. Turn it up a notch. It'll turn it up a notch. Usually dads in class are like, that was nothing. And so I'll say, put it behind your ear for the minute. And then usually, I think that was Jonathan. Gosh, that's not really all right, so I'll just invite you to just kind of settle into your chair. If you want to close your eyes, you can. You certainly don't have to. But just take a moment and focus on your breath. You can just let yourself breathe in and out. And just kind of notice when that next exhalation begins. And when that exhalation ends, just comfortably breathing it in.
Open your mouth. Open your eyes now.
All right, let's go ahead and pick up that. So again, you're just letting yourself breathe in and out. Just noticing when that breath begins and when that breath ends. And you can start to become really curious about your breath. Maybe just like noticing if your breath is tight or if your breath is shallow.
Mommy, I'm playing shit.
The breath is easy.
Go fetch.
It's
Go
not.
fetch.
Just noticing again when that exhalation begins and then. Just breathing in and out. You might feel it in your nose or maybe down a little lower in your throat. Maybe deep in your chest. So what do we notice that time now?
It's cold, but I think that it burn as much.
It didn't burn as much. What else?
Minutes seem to go faster.
Why do you think that is?
Because I wasn't focusing on, is this minute over? I was focused on something else.
I could feel a battle between anxiety in my body and almost like a fight-flight, and it was switching my attention back and forth between the sensation in my hand and the breath. And at least it didn't take away the sensation in my hand,
Of course, right?
but it helped moderate the building intensity of it.
Yeah.
It kept
That's
it
like
at the same level.
It's such a great point. And the same thing in labor. Like we can't take away the sensation that we're feeling in labor. Anything that we're doing, you can't take that away. But we can take away the assignment that this is pain, this is painful, this is cold, and I don't want to be here anymore. Or we can take our awareness into our mind and into our breath. Or if we did this once, like we're doing it like we just did right here, it's not going to do us any good, right? This is like a practice. This is something that we would practice. People practice this for years and years, like meditation, right? And just allowing yourself to be in this space of no space, allowing yourself to focus on your breath, and that's it. We get into that, they look like, call it monkey mind. And I'm like, this is so cold, this is terrible, this sucks, who is this girl? I want to throw it on this ice, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to be in labor right now, I don't want to do this anymore. Or this other place of calm that our mind creates, that we say, I'm feeling this ice. Yep, I sure can feel it. Oh wait, I'm feeling my breath. Here I go, breathing in and out, right back to my center. Yep, this is still here. But I don't have to freak out about it. I don't have to assign this negative, these negative words, characteristic towards it. Like, you know when, here's one example. You know when it's like the middle of August, you're in Florida and you get into your car, right? Like, oh my God, yeah. What do we say? We're like, this sucks, this is terrible, this is so hot, turn on the air, I can't stand it, I can't breathe, oh my gosh, get me out of here. And then like the next week we'll go to a spa and hop in the sauna or the steam room, right? And we're like, oh, this feels so good, right? It's probably the same temperature, but our mind is ready for a different experience or creating a different experience. So with one, we're assigning it that it's bad, and the other we're assigning that it's good. And it could be the same thing with contractions. I mean, I certainly can't say if it is or if it's not. I mean, you know, I'm not inside your mind, but with some practice, you can work with your own mind and decide, wow, I am going to practice this, and I'm going to allow myself to assign a different adjective to this sensation that I'm feeling. Right? You see how that might be something to practice and work with? And so you were saying, so if I can call you out here for a minute, that some of the things we did in class were really helpful. So
Yes.
how were these things helpful when you were in labor?
Just like you just said, because I was alone, I was at home, I was only 36.5 weeks, so I certainly wasn't expecting to be in labor that day or having a baby that day. And when I realized that, oh, yep, this is for sure contraction, and I actually had to do, it was kind of, I tell her it was like a mental face slap, where it was like, okay, well this is going to happen, and you can either be in the moment and experience it, or you can freak out. It's your choice, but either way it's still going to happen. You're still going to be alone, you're still going to be in your bathroom, so definitely being mindful, and I chose to just do it, you know, stop freaking out, use what I learned through the different classes, and just really be aware of my body and what my baby was doing, what my body was doing. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I remember once the head came out saying, okay, don't pull, just, you know, the baby knows what to do. And sure enough, I just remember the sensation of getting to watch my baby's head and shoulders turn into position for the last contraction to come out. And that's like the most amazing part of my birth, and that's what I really try and focus on. Because it's a sensational story, and a lot of people say, you know, oh, you're a rock star, or are jealous because of the type of birth they had and how quick it was and how fast. But that's the thing that I want to focus on about my birth and my son's birth, because that was, I was really in the moment, and I could have chose to go the other way and freak out and scream and yell and do all these other things. He still would have been out, but I would have missed that amazing, like, miracle of nature, you know? So,
And like culturally, you kind of put this emphasis on like a faster birth is better. Fast birth is better birth, long birth is not a good birth, right? And so as someone who experienced an extremely fast birth that could be, not putting words in your mouth, but could be, has the potential to be equally as traumatic as a birth that is, let's say, 60 hours long,
absolutely.
right? Yeah. And sometimes people don't really realize that, and how you start to really get your mind involved in the process to calm yourself down, slow down those thoughts, and experience what it is. Mindfulness, being completely present in this moment. This is what we are right now. I'm not going to make it any bigger than it is. I'm not going to make it any smaller because it is. This is what it is.
Yeah, there's definitely prices and payoffs for everything. And so, like you said, a long labor or a short labor. And that, I think, was really hard for me after the fact. But during, it was, through your class, I was totally prepared to have the birth that my baby needed to have, because I was set on an all-natural birth at the birth center in the water. And this was absolutely, positively nothing like that at all. And so it was just like, okay, well, this may not be the birth that you want, but this is the birth your baby needs to have for whatever reason. So let's just be in the moment, go with what you know, and but definitely there's prices and payoffs for each type of birth.
It's kind of nice to just like build compassion for other people's birth stories, and just expanding what one person thinks of their own birth story might not be exactly what we would think if that was our birth story, or what one person's birth story appears to be. It might not be actually matching their inner process of it. So let's expand this a bit to fertility, or trying to conceive, right? So how might a very simple practice like this, like breath awareness, be beneficial to the trying to conceive journey?
That's one of the things that I think Marcy talks about is stress levels. And I talk to patients all the time about if stress is a cumulative kind of environment that you're putting yourself internally into, then the remedy for that also has to be a cumulative conscious practice. Just like if you're going to choose to eat really sugary foods all day, you know that it's also probably smart to brush your teeth twice a day in order to counteract that. If you're going to work at a computer all day, then you may need to do some rebalancing of your body and your posture in order to prevent the health impacts of doing that. Your body does exactly what you ask it to do all the time. And for reproduction, happens in, not to get too sciencey about it, but you have an automatic nervous system that either chooses to help you through fight or flight situations, or through the growth and repair of your body. And both conception and reproduction happen in that growth and repair state, not in fight or flight. So breath awareness is that mindful exercise of slowing down. Same thing for growing the baby inside. Bruce looked into some wonderful conversations about the programming that happens internally for that baby as a response to that mom's environment when she's pregnant. If she's in a fight-flight state all the time, that baby comes out ready for an external environment. It's very hostile, and it's prepared for it, right? But if that mom is in a place where she's nurtured and she's cared for, and she feels safe and secure, and she has that kind of neurology going on, the neurological environment that dictates her physiology, they are connected. And when they are connected like that, that determines how that baby gets to develop his or her neurology.
And I've got to believe too that even if the mom were to have a really stressful pregnancy and the baby came out sort of pre-programmed that way, that there are things that she and the baby can do even after the baby's born to sort of reset.
That is the beauty. That is the promise of what we do.
Right. To like take away some of that potential, like mama guilt, like, oh my gosh, I had this, and this happening, and now my baby for life is going to be stressed out. But I don't think, great, we can reprogram this on this cellular level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have that potential.
That's my birth. That was my birth with Aiden. Because we moved 6 times during my pregnancy. Like, it was just very unsettled, very like, I was just stressed out the whole entire time. He came out very colicky, very, I don't want to sleep, sick all the time. Like, and for a long time I was like, I did this to him. So.
As moms, we do this for anything. It's so easy to point the finger at ourselves because, right? Who else are we going to blame but ourselves? But that's what's so cool. So the thoughts that we have in our mind can actually reprogram the way that we're bonding with our children, right? And so these ideas of even like attachment parenting and things like that, and this bonding that can happen after the birth. Well, here are moms that have had a cesarean and feel very I guess guilty is the word for not having, for example, just an example, that skin-to-skin time right after the baby's born. And I have to say, yes, in an ideal world, that's what all births would be able to have, that immediate skin-to-skin bonding. But let's think about what's actually, how many hours are we talking about then? 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many hours do we have that we're parenting and bonding with our children? So, to take away some of that potential guilt that we put on ourselves and like going forward from where we are right now. It's another practice in being mindful. In this moment right now, maybe I missed that opportunity with my child, but going forward, I've got this opportunity right now and making the most of that. I've got a story that I want to share with you guys, if you guys are up for it. It's a short one. I put it out. And it's by, I can't say it's by. There's a man named Milton Erickson, and he did a lot of work with the subconscious, and it's wildly fascinating to me, especially in birth and pregnancy and labor. And I can't think of anything better as far as trying to conceive and getting our subconscious involved in that. So it's from a book called My Voice Will Go With You. It's the teaching tales of Milton Erickson. So there's a bunch of short stories that this genius of a man shared, and the author captured in book form. So see if you can catch the drift here, because it's a little like some of the stories that he tells, you walk away saying like, what? What is the point? What are you talking about? And later when you're brushing your teeth and kind of in that trancy space, you're like, all right, he says, during the war, I worked at the induction board in Detroit. One day, as I was going to the induction board, I saw a veteran who had returned with an artificial leg. He was looking at some glare ice. He was eyeing it suspiciously because he knew that he was likely to fall. That's very smooth ice, I told him. Stand where you are. I'll come over and I'll teach you how to walk on the glare ice. He could see that I had a limp, so he knew I must be talking about what I knew. He watched me cross that glare ice and he said, how did you do it? And I said, I won't tell you, I'll teach you. Now, you just keep your eyes totally shut. And I turned him around and I walked him back and forth on the ice-free sidewalk. Okay. I kept walking him back and forth over longer and longer distances, and then shorter and shorter distances, until finally I noticed his utter confusion. Finally, I got him clear across to the other side of that glare ice. I said, open your eyes. He said, where is that glare ice? And I said, it's behind you. He said, how did I get over here?
I said, now you can understand. You walk as if the cement was there. When you try to walk on ice, the usual tendency is to tense your muscles, preparing for a fall. You get a mental set, and you slip that way. If you put the weight of your legs down straight, the way you would on dry cement, you wouldn't slip. The slide comes because you don't put down your full weight, and because you tense yourself. It took me a long time to find that out. So we're thinking about, in that sense, we're thinking about we're bringing. If we already imagine it so, it can be so. It's not hard and fast rules, but it's kind of amazing when you get your mind involved in it that way.
Very empowering.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming in. Is this something that we always try to figure out what works out best for families when we're doing Pathways events? Lunchtime, we had a good turnout. I like this. We get like different people at different times. So yeah, we'd love any feedback from people either here or online in online land, recorded land. Yeah, because we like to keep being a resource for our community this way and offering the opportunity to have conversations about where we are in our path. So, does anybody have anything else? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording if we want to talk about anything else. We can.
Thank you for your stuff.